Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 5th episode of Shooting with the Shooters. Sorry that this one is late. I've just been ridiculously busy this month with college applications and SAT and all that stuff. But enough about me. Let's get to my guest this moment, the New York Sports Freak.
Better known as Trademark629.
Jared, what's up?
Not much. Just got off like 10 hours of work.
Nice. Well, anyway, let's get started right away with the perennial question. Why did you get into pro wrestling?
Why did I get into pro wrestling? Now, my answer is going to be really different than pretty much everyone else that's going to be a part of this series, probably. Well, I mean, I know a lot of people say that they got started in pro wrestling since they were like really, really young, but for me, I have only been a fan of wrestling for about 4 or 5 years now. I got into it in late 2006, early 2007, because when my dad first started seeing my stepmom, she had 2 kids. One of them was a son, and basically, like, me and him, we first basically started like bonding over what was wrestling because he was into it, and when we would go over their house like on Mondays and Raw would be on, I'd watch it, and I kind of got wrapped up in it quickly. Plus, I had a couple of other friends at school who would like tell me about all the funny stuff that DX was doing to the McMahons, because this was like like late 2006 when they brought back DX. So it gave me something to bond over with my now stepbrother, as well as something to talk about with some of my other friends at school. And just developed further and further the older I got, really, because I started getting into more promotions. And now I really can't imagine life without wrestling, but I've only been a fan for like a few years.
And then you started in 07, right?
Early 07, yeah.
What was the first pay-per-view you bought?
First one I bought? Survivor Series 07.
So your pirating days began right when you started watching wrestling.
Actually, it's a funny story about that. See, we never even bought the pay-per-views because, like, it was kind of me who first sprung the idea of ordering these shows to my stepbrother, because he would always just like watch Raw, watch SmackDown, and he used to tell me, but like he had never gotten the pay-per-views, and like I think it was around SummerSlam, because I remember like. We both kind of were really into like this whole Cena and Orton thing that was going on, and like I kind of sprung the idea on my dad at the last minute. He was just like, "No, we're not ordering this thing. It's like $40, no way." Eventually, like a couple of pay-per-views, and then Survivor Series was around the corner. It was Orton and Michaels, and like I'd always been a huge Shawn Michaels fan. The match that actually got me into wrestling, the first full-length match that I saw was Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 21. Not live, but yeah. And so, you had Orton and Michaels, you had Batista and Taker in the Hell in a Cell. Me and my stepbrother basically finally convinced our parents to let us order it, split the bill. So that was actually the first live pay-per-view that I had ever seen.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how was it from like a live perspective?
Oh, from a live perspective, it was a lot of fun. I really liked the show.
It holds a special place in your heart.
Hmm?
It holds a special place in your heart.
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, I don't remember being like blown away by it. I just remember thinking it was just really, really good.
I always remember the first pay-per-view I saw live, Unforgiven 2002.
My friend has the VHS of that one, and I remember he used to play that whenever we used to sleep over his house, me and like the other guys, and that's not a bad one to start off with at all.
All right, so this is going to be a little different for most people, because most people, like myself, like LV, like Markeem, we started on here like well into a wrestling fandom. But you started on YouTube, what, in 2008?
Late 2008, yep.
Explain how that happened.
Basically, as I was getting into wrestling with my stepbrother, we would go on YouTube, look up past matches and stuff, like basically like some of the more popular ones, but ones that like again he had never really had the idea to go and look up beforehand. So like we would see the old TLC matches from WrestleMania, Rock and Stone Cold, just Money in the Banks, really anything. And eventually, after a while, around sometime in 2008, I found Dirty White Boy's channel, and I listened to a couple of his wrestling pay-per-view reviews, and I started to like regularly follow him before I even knew to like make an account, and then I made one, and like I don't even know if I subscribed because I was such a noob to YouTube that like I had no clue how any of this stuff like worked. So eventually, like I was just watching but only his videos because like I had no clue that there was like a whole community out there. I just like only saw his videos, and then I think the second person that I saw was ROH Styles 23. And then, like, after a few months of watching these guys' videos, I just figured, like, hey, I have a webcam, and, like, if they can do it, I can do it, right?
Yeah.
So I made my first YouTube account, which was not Trademark629. It was actually called New York Sports Freak. I really wish that I left that account up because I honestly like that name a lot better than the one I have now. But so yeah, and I did not really make a lot of videos on that account though because I really just only did pay-per-view reviews. It was strictly WWE and TNA predictions and review. That was it. And then again, TNA I started watching them in mid 2008 because let me think. How did I get started in TNA? Oh yeah, my friend was telling me about because I knew I was asking my friend who I knew watched TNA. I was like, "Hey, isn't Kurt Angle over there?" And then he's like, "Yeah, he's fighting Samoa Joe for the title." This was around like lockdown '08, around that time, and I remember I just like looked up because I never heard of Samoa Joe. I looked him up, and all of a sudden I see like, "Holy shit, this guy's a beast!" And then that led me to start watching TNA like on Spike. I remember seeing the Dudley Boys put Christian through a glass table, and the first thing I thought was, wow, I have never seen anything like that before in the WWE. So that got me to start watching TNA.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
And really gave me my first taste of like TNA being awful was when I streamed Bound for Glory '08. Mm-hmm. I think I only saw I think originally when it aired, I only saw the main event. And then when that main event ended, I just remember, because this was in like Justin TV or something, and like I just looked at the sidebar, and in the chat, when Sting beat Joe after Nash screwed Joe over, everyone in the chat was going like, "Fuck TNA, fuck Sting, fuck this company, blah blah blah." And and even I just like thought to myself like, "Wait, Joe is such a beast. He got beat by that old man and like that. I mean, I just thought that was dumb." Yeah. But yeah, it kind of did get me interested in some ways though, because Turning Point '08 was the first full TNA show that the first full TNA pay-per-view that I watched, and I remember thinking that was pretty good. And so yeah, on my first channel, I would originally only do the WB and TNA predictions and reviews for the pay-per-views until you came along, honestly, and you kind of because like I was so secluded on YouTube, honestly, before you kind of discovered me. Much like you've discovered guys like Kyle O'Reilly.
Of course.
Yeah. And, you kind of got me to branch off a little bit, talk to other people. And originally I think I had like 5 subscribers because I didn't use tags. I didn't like talk with anybody, didn't promote myself at all. I just kind of did my thing and like no one was watching. So eventually I got into doing like a couple more like discussion based videos. Still only WB and TNA though, until it was a little after WrestleMania. In school one day, my friends found out about my YouTube thing, and I was just like so, like, just upset about the whole thing that I closed my account, then immediately, but opened up a different one. And a lot of people want to know the story behind the name Trademark629. There is no story behind it whatsoever. My goal when I made this account was to make a name that was so different that no one would have had any clue.
I didn't know this.
Well, learn something new every day.
That is awesome.
But yeah, that is really the whole story behind it. Like, there is none. There is no reasoning or meaning behind that name whatsoever. I was just trying to think. I was like, okay, what still sounds kind of cool, but totally unrelated to that other name? So I came up with that. And then, of course, the next day in school, I hear this one guy coming up to some of my friends, like, telling them, like, ooh, this is his new name. And then at that point, I was just like, you know what? They're going to know no matter what. And I didn't feel like I wanted to stop, so I just left it up. And I was just like, you know, whatever. And eventually, after a few months, they stopped. They stopped caring. You know, I stopped getting flack for it at school. No one really, it just kind of blew over because I didn't really let it bother me.
Nice. That right there is perseverance. Yeah, Trademark629 for the future. All right, there's actually a funny story. This is one of the very few times in the interviews where I will give a narrative. But I found this guy because when I first started, the only guy I watched was Aarion. He was legitimately the only guy I watched. I don't even remember how I found him. I just remember I found him, and I think it was from Hard Justice, actually. Hard Justice 2008. Because TNA is what got me to YouTube, believe it or not. Most people don't know that because I never watched the TNA pay-per-views, ever. And TNA, I remember they would take too long to post the results on their webpage. So I just went on YouTube and I just typed in Hard Justice Review, and I found someone, and I found Aarion. And I kept following Aarion, and it wasn't until I found Aarion, then I found Instant Classic, then I found ROH Styles, and then for December, Aarion was very late with his review for Final Resolution 2008.
Oh, that one sucked.
That show's terrible.
I hated that show.
And he was saying how, I know that many other people have already said this, and I'm a bit repetitive, but this show sucked. And I thought, many other people, let's see who else is out there. And I typed in Final Resolution 2008 review, and lo and behold, a guy named New York Sports Freak came up. Who,
with 3 Ks.
Yes, who also in his previous video, I think it was this or Survivor Series or Slammy's video, looked like he had red lipstick on.
Yeah, because I had it was something with the lighting in my room and like the camera angle, whatever, but it was just very bright.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I knew that. Oh well, who's this guy? And then he, Aarion, Brandon, A Stone, and ROH Styles kind of started the path. And then I saw this little guy who looked around my age. He's actually older than I am, but he's like half my height. He
Shut it.
I saw him and I was like, well, he's doing this, I can do this. And then I started doing this, and then eventually, I remember it was because I think I passed him in subscribers. I was like on here for a month. I just wondered to myself, why does he have so few subscribers? He's been doing this a lot longer. And then I talked to him and I realized it was because he was, like he said, he was self-isolated in his own little, the dirty white boy lab.
Well, wasn't necessarily just that, but like I wasn't not very active on YouTube. I kind of just like, I would come on here like once or twice a month, do my video, and just like leave it alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we both kind of helped each other in a way. Helped each other start on here and grow.
I remember I helped with filling you in what was going on in the TNA pay-per-views. I remember you would upload these, like, they weren't reviews, they were thoughts on the results.
Thoughts on the results, yes. Because one time I wrote review, I think it was Against All Odds 2009.
Yeah.
Where I wrote TNA Against All Odds review, and I said in the beginning of the video, well, I didn't see the show, I'm just giving my thoughts on the results. And some guy posted this comment like, well, you can't say really of a review if you didn't see the show. So for the next show, Destination X, I put in all caps in the title, Thoughts, not review. Well, that's what you get when you deal with trolls on YouTube. All right, my next inquiry is you, sir. You need to state your case because you have claimed that you are the most hated YouTuber. Explain how this started and how it continues to be.
How this started? Mm-hmm. Well, basically, around last year, middle of last year, I got caught up in the whole ROH craze with Death Before Dishonor 8.
Cut, because of me.
He just has to take credit for everything, man.
Yep.
Anyway, I guess partly because of him. I remember it was like May last year. I saw Epic Encounter 3, and it was the main event of that show, Kenny Omega versus Davey Richards. And that's the match that really just made me say, okay, this promotion is awesome, and I need to start following them on a regular basis and see like all their shows. So then, basically from there on out, and especially after Death Before Dishonor, because God knows that show was awesome, I kind of just like, that's when I think kind of hit everyone a little like off guard, because from there, I just started playing catch up with ROH. I started seeing like all their shows from last year, the ones that I had missed that had come out on DVD like several months ago. And then like, so I was just like several days a week like uploading these reviews of the ROH shows. And you know, like people were just, I think, not expecting it, because I used to do only mainstream reviews, with the exception of Dragon Gate USA, but that was only an occasional thing. They were the first indie that I ever started following. That came in like late '09, because I watched Untouchable '09.
Again, because of me.
Okay, okay, but yeah, like I think people just weren't really expecting it. But really, it's like, I think last year was just was a really bad year for mainstream wrestling in general, so there wasn't really anything to talk about. And that's kind of how I started discovering indie wrestling. And I think, and it wasn't just, I don't think it was just the fact that I was reviewing it. It was just the fact that, like, I was always talking about it, and it was at that point that I realized there's a lot of really ignorant people on YouTube. And it just, like, it kind of just, the way I was interpreting everything was, like, I would get these comments from people on my indie reviews that would be like, why the hell are you talking about this? This stuff is stupid. There's, like, no point to any of it. Like, you know, all the usual insults people throw at indie wrestling. And I was just thinking, like, because at this point, I had gone in with, like, a completely open mind, and I was, like, blown away. And I was just thinking, like, how can you insult this stuff? You've never even seen it, and if you give it one shot, you'll see it's so amazing, because that's how it happened for me. I saw one show, and I was, like, amazed by everything. So it was at that point that I really just started, like, calling people out and being like, you know what, you're being absolutely ridiculous here, and you're acting like a complete noob, and, you know, whatever. And people thought this was, like, a total, like, elitist attitude, not understanding that, like, I was basically responding to a lot of the comments that were sprung on me at the first place. So eventually people just, like, said, like, oh my god, this guy's just an indie mark, because I, like, gave high ratings to indie shows. And like I said, WWE and TNA, they both had, like, not good years at all last year, in my opinion. So most of my reviews for their pay-per-views were not very favorable. So people just looked at the ratings and figured, like, oh, he's giving higher ratings to the indie shows, he's giving lower ratings to the mainstream shows, therefore he's a mark, and his opinion is useless. And what just really irritated me about this is, like, most of these people are not watching all these shows that I'm watching, so they can't. I did not feel that these people had a right to comment on shows that they were not even going to give their time to watch.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of weird. We both are kind of two of the main guys on here that talk about independent pro wrestling, and I really don't get a lot of hate. I mean, with that CM Punk video, a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people, and not just in that video, but after that video, like I got a lot of negative backlash, I will admit, because a lot of people really did misunderstand what I was trying to do. Yeah. I was trying to prove a point about people they make comments without watching the videos, and people assume that I was trying to be an intention whore.
I actually did that. I did that last year once. I think I uploaded, like, it was a double review of a couple of ROH shows, and in the title it said TNA fans suck and Dixie Carter is a she-male.
Yeah, I gotcha. But aside from that instance, I really never get any negative comments on my indie videos. But this guy gets.
Oh yeah, I get a lot.
Yeah,
people hate me. Well, it wasn't just that, because before that, I was already getting accused of being a TNA hater in, like, 2009.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
You know,
so I think that, you know, it's like, there's one thing TNA fans can't stand. There's two things TNA fans can't stand: people who bash TNA and people who support independent wrestling.
Yep.
So I was doing both.
But you know what they say? If you're hated, you're somebody.
That is true.
All right, now let's get into. I would get into some more topics, but we have a lot of questions, and in the questions, they already cover like a wide variety of things that I want to talk about, anyways. So I just want to get to them. Some of these questions are not your traditional questions you would get for an interview, but I talked to Trademark before the show, and he has agreed to answer these questions. So, yeah, it's all on him. All right.
Okay.
So, first up, we have a question from Man on Fire 310.
Oh, Christ.
Is your sister single?
I do not believe so. No.
Okay. And that's all we're going to say. By the way, Man on Fire actually messaged me begging me not to censor his questions to you. So, take that for what you will.
There's more?
I'll ask the other really awkward ones so we can get it out of the way. From ROH Awesome Jesse. If you got home when there were 6 black guys and they stripped you naked, what would you do?
What?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, did they strip me and then run away?
I told you exactly what the question said.
I'd probably run away.
Okay.
I mean, ordinarily I'd fight them, but it would be like 6-on-1.
Yeah, sure. That's why you wouldn't fight them.
Well, then again, actually, if I got beat up, actually, I could call the police and they could call it a hate crime. So
let's move on. One more awkward question. Now, again, if you have a problem with this, blame him. He agreed to answer them. Jeff Hardy, next WB Man 2, asks,
oh, no.
Why has Trademark abandoned WWE and TNA for independent pro wrestling and turned his back to all his subscribers?
First of all, I've never abandoned WWE and TNA because I still watch. I watch WWE I watch Raw every week, and I watch SmackDown on occasion.
Oh, my bad. I misphrased this question. It's why have you become such a mark for the indies? I love ROH and PWG from time to time, but it's time to make some different videos than just reviews. Get original. Used to be better in 2009.
Oh, well, thank you for leaving that part out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I haven't turned my back on them or anything like that. I still watch WWE and TNA. It's just that, they're not as consistent as a lot of other promotions that I follow. There's a lot of different promotions that can guarantee me a show night in, night out. And with WWE, they got their inconsistencies. They got their period. They have their rough periods. With TNA, it's kind of an everyday thing. But it's just that I think I kind of just grew tired of watching all the mediocre stuff and hoping for that one good show when I can get when I can watch these other promotions and they just deliver on a more consistent basis and don't insult fans' intelligence and stuff like that. And it really just comes to broadening my horizons a little bit because I watch a lot of different promotions and they're all enjoyable in very different ways. So it's just I have I enjoy a lot of different kinds of wrestling, and I can kind of with the indies watch a bunch of different promotions, and each one of them offers something a little bit different from the other.
All right, I gotcha.
Yeah, and also kind of helps if one's not doing so hot, there's usually another one that's doing really good, and so yeah, that's mainly why I got into it. As far as abandoning my subscribers or anything like that, like I said, I still do WWE and TNA videos for my subscribers. Really, if my subscribers did not want to hear it, I probably would have stopped doing the TNA reviews a long time ago. And I'm sorry if people think that I'm being a little harsh, but it's I call it like I see it. And if I'm watching this pay-per-view and it's not good, I'm not gonna lie to you and say it was good when it wasn't, And so yeah, I still do the mainstream videos. It's just that I don't do them as much because oftentimes it just feels kind of stale. I mean, WWE has been really good this year. At times, I mean, they're like you said in your last video. This is usually their slow time of the year. Like the fall is usually not good for them, but they've had their periods of brilliance this year, honestly. And
Alright.
I wholeheartedly supported WWE from like Money in the Bank to SummerSlam, and early part of the year I really liked them too.
Alright. Next question is from Gold Standard 000. Some Yankee question. What is your favorite moment in Yankees history?
My favorite moment in Yankees history would probably be, I would say, when they won the World Series in 2009, mainly because that was the first ever Yankees World Series victory that I experienced, like seeing it live when it happened for myself, because the last time they won the World Series before that was in 2000, and obviously I was so young back then, like, it was probably, I don't even remember like when the last game took place, but probably like on a school night or something. I don't remember like seeing the end of that one because I was like 7 years old, like second grade or whatever. And for me, when they won the World Series in '09, I just remember like after several years, because like '03, '04 was really when I started strictly following my sports teams like game by game every season. And since then, I'd been waiting so long for the Yankees to win the World Series. I remember like 2003 and 2004, I was just heartbroken the things that happened to them in the playoffs. So when they won the World Series in 2009, it was just like it was a great feeling.
Would you mean the Yankees didn't win the World Series in 2003? What? All right. His second question. What is your personal favorite wrestling feud of all time that isn't talked about as much?
That isn't talked about as much. Trying to think here. Wow. I think Rock Triple H is one from the Attitude Era that is not talked about that much, mainly because of the Rock Stone Cold feuds.
Right.
But that's kind of a well-known one. I remember I really liked that one. Let's see, something else.
I think that one's not really talked about as much.
Yeah, and then another one that I liked, I'm not saying like favorite, the RVD and Jeff Hardy feud. It was like a little mini program between them, and I remember during the invasion storyline, because everyone kind of like talks about how crappy that angle was, but that was kind of like a silver lining in the cloud during that era.
All right. Next, more questions from Man on Fire 310. How do you feel? How do you feel about these people? Willie Mack, Mark Henry, Booker T, Shelton Benjamin, and the Pope.
Let's see. Willie Mack. I really like him. I think he's very, very talented. Very unique style and a unique look. I think he has all the tools to be a major superstar someday. Mark Henry, never liked him. Dull, boring, just...
Shut up. Keep going.
Typical WWE big man, in my opinion. Just, eh.
Although that's why he's the most hated YouTuber.
Well, okay. I will give him this. The stuff he's doing right now is probably his best work of his career.
Okay. Right.
Who are the other?
Booker T, Shelton Benjamin, and the Pope.
Booker T, I always really liked him. He's definitely, when people ask me who were some of my favorite people from WCW, Booker T is probably at the top of that list. I always liked him. I'm not really a fan of him on commentary, but as a wrestler, I really liked his work. Except for when he was King Booker. That shit was just stupid.
That was awesome. All right, keep going. Shelton Benjamin.
Really, really fun guy to watch. Very, very athletic. No mic skills whatsoever. Totally devoid of any talking ability whatsoever. But he he used. I think that he kind of is a little bit past his prime, but he can still put on like really good performances. I feel like a lot of his stuff in Ring of Honor has been disappointing, but he had some really good moments in the WWE, like that match with Shawn Michaels on Raw that everyone talks about with the super kick from hell.
The Pope.
Pope, I liked him. I like Pope a lot. I really think that TNA dropped the ball with him. I was really buying into his push early last year, when he won that tournament in that pay-per-view in like February. And then he was heading to lockdown in the world title match. And I just remember after that, he fell into obscurity.
Do you think Chikara will leave its style for Joshi Mania, or will they work some comedy into it? Even though the people who love women's wrestling just want to see wrestling instead of Chikara comedy.
It depends who they get for the show.
I'd be willing to bet that they leave it out except for maybe a match. I'd be willing to bet that they leave it out except for maybe a match.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it depends on the talent, but I think that it will be probably their most serious shows of the year so far, because they're kind of building up like it's going to be a true showcase of the best women's wrestling in the world. So I think that they're kind of going to play it up in a more serious sense, but it's Chikara, so they never really take themselves too seriously. So I would say the majority of the matches are just going to be straight up wrestling matches.
Right.
I think it's going to be what the people are going to want to see.
All right. Here's the trick. Here's why I like this question a lot. The question is, how would you fix TNA? But here's the catcher. In one sentence. I want one sentence. How would you fix TNA?
Can it be like a run-on sentence?
Nope. One sentence. And you can't say they should fire Vince Russo, comma, fire blah, 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 comma, do this, comma. No. Sentence.
Oh, well, commas are part of sentences.
Fine.
Okay. Fire Hogan, Bischoff, Dixie Carter, and hire Paul Heyman and... Well, Paul Heyman not to be like owner or anything like that, but, you know, just, I think he should definitely be involved. And just find some people who have functioning brains.
All right.
Oh, wait, and get rid of Vince Russo, too. Did I really leave him out? Wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap, man.
All right.
But yeah, it's that honestly at this point, I'm just thinking they're beyond repair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think WWE kept JBL as champ for so long in 2004 when you had guys like RVD, Cena, Booker T, Undertaker, and Eddie that could have worked and sold much more than Mr. Bradshaw?
Well, Eddie not doing so well as champion was kind of the reasoning behind JBL taking the title in the first place. You know, being the WWE champion isn't for everybody, and Eddie kind of proved that. You know, it was really taking its toll on him. That's kind of why they gave JBL the title. It was more of it seemed at the time like more of a panic move, but then they stuck with it. I do agree that they really should have put the title on Booker T at that time. RVD, I think, you know, maybe it could have worked, but he kind of just, it seems like ever since that incident in the Elimination Chamber where he almost crushed Triple H's throat, that his push kind of got to the main event scene kind of got derailed, because he was really on a roll from like, they put him in the main events during the Invasion angle, and then like he was getting into the world title picture in 2002, but then it just seemed after that match he went down to mid-card status, and he stayed that way for a while. The Undertaker, I think it could have worked. Maybe they wanted, I guess they just wanted a new guy so bad that they figured like that was the only way. I think it was a huge mistake.
For those that do not know, JBL is the lowest drawing WWE champion in history.
Wow.
Yeah. Which
is interesting, because you look at the WWE now and like they give Alberto Del Rio the title, and after only a month of ratings slipping below a 3, the title's gone. And then you have JBL, like you said, drawing such low ratings. I guess maybe they didn't think it was as big of a deal because he was on SmackDown, but I just can't believe they stuck with him as champ for too long. It just like the way he lost the belt to Cena. I mean, well, that's another thing. Like Cena, they had to build him up for a while before he could take the title off of him. They wanted to make it seem like a big moment, I guess. So they waited. Until WrestleMania to give Cena the belt instead of having him beat JBL for it in 2004.
Yeah.
But it just didn't seem like it was much of a payoff. You know, like Cena just beats him in like 10 minutes. It was just very anticlimactic.
You should go off on spinning it again. That shit was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Not really,
Oh Christ!
not really a question, but by the way, you can see that video on my channel. It's called the Best Spinnernet 1 Video Ever. Type it into the search box, and you can see it. All right, this guy has 10 questions, so let's keep these answers as quick as we can. From Renzo Borg. How did you become a wrestling fan? We covered that. If Undertaker had to wrestle his last match come next WrestleMania, which opponent would you pick? I'd go with Triple H again.
You would?
No, that's what this guy said.
Oh, okay. Really, I've always felt that Undertaker should face John Cena at WrestleMania because Cena's kind of like the last big star that Taker has not faced on like a main stage because they've only had one pay-per-view match and it was when Cena was like a rookie. So I'd like to see Taker Cena. What's
your personal opinion about John Cena? A lot of people hate him. I wonder what your thoughts are.
Hard worker, willing to do anything for the WWE, and he's not to blame for WWE's staleness or like poor show quality or anything like that. It's more of the way he's booked that's the reasoning behind a lot of people hating him. I think he himself does not deserve a lot of the crap that he gets.
I have this bad feeling that since ROH's new TV deal, ROH might not be what it used to be. Do you think ROH will not be as good as in the future? I seriously don't want it to water down to what basically TNA is right now. Bit of an exaggeration there, but still.
Yeah. I mean, I saw the first episode of the TV show last week, and it was different, very different. But I think in a good way. They're still going to be doing the house shows. They're still going to be doing the pay-per-views, the iPay-per-views, at least for the time being. So I think it's going to be kind of like how it was with HDNet, where like you get like a little taste on the TV show because it's like so short and edited together. But then like you look at the house shows, you look at the iPay-per-views, that really shows you what ROH is all about, and that's like that classic ROH awesomeness. So I think the TV shows are going to be different, but overall you're still going to see like on those shows that are like full length, you're going to see like what ROH can really do. So it'll be different, but they're not going to totally abandon their fan base.
I always wanted to ask you this: do you follow AAA?
No, I don't.
What's your favorite match of all time, regardless of promotion? Just your absolute favorite match of all time.
Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker in the first ever Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood 97.
Wow. What's your take about The Rock versus Cena for WrestleMania 28? Do you think it'll be better than Rock Hogan? And if CM Punk Austin happens, which of these two would deliver the most?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, The Rock is younger than Austin at this point, and also he is probably less like banged up than Austin is. But then again, Austin has he's probably, because he's been around the WWE for the past like several years when he has been wrestling on a regular basis. I just feel like I think both of these matches would depend a lot on the crowd heat. I just think that like Rock and Cena would probably be like, it would be more of a electric atmosphere. So I think that match might come off a little bit better. Also, just like the fact that Austin's like, I think he's like on the wrong side of 45 now, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think him and Punk could still maybe have like if that ever happened, maybe might be like, it might be good. Obviously, both these matches would not be like 5-star like wrestling quality, but would again depend heavily on the crowd heat. I think that Cena Rock might come off a little bit better. As for my opinion on Cena Rock, I'm glad that it's happening. It's a dream match for a lot of people, and it's going to be an amazing moment at WrestleMania.
Which Japanese promotion would you recommend for someone new to Japanese wrestling? Why, and what makes it better than other promotions?
I would say Pro Wrestling Noah. I think that they have just the most talented roster out of any Japanese promotion. and and generally just have the best matches, and not just for sheer athleticism, but also I think they probably have the best storytelling out of in their matches out of any Japanese promotion. Dragon Gate's a lot of fun, but their matches are more like athletic and crazy. It really depends what you're into, but I think that Pro Wrestling Noah, they're the most complete out of any Japanese promotion.
You posted a video in March about how you're done with Impact and how you vented out all of your frustrations. From that point on, I think TNA got worse, actually. What are your current thoughts about the future of this company? Did you see any improvement from March onwards? Do you feel this company is sinking even lower? Mind you, I love the video of yours. You kind of already covered that, saying it's beyond repair.
Yeah.
Who are your top 5 favorite wrestlers from WWE ever? I know you're a big Christian fan and Daniel Bryan and Davey Richards from ROH, but other than that, I feel like your subs don't know who your favorite WWE stars really are. From WWE ever.
All right. All time in WWE, Shawn Michaels is definitely number 1. Then Stone Cold, then Christian probably. I've been like a huge Christian mark for a while. After that, probably The Rock, and then I guess after that would be, I don't know. Let me think.
Undertaker?
Yeah, either Undertaker or CM Punk.
All right. Define Gravity 503 asks, this is probably a question you've never been asked before. How many years have you been wanting to be a sportscaster, and how far do you plan to go with your future career?
I've been wanting to be a sportscaster ever since I was like 12 years old, I think. Basically, I was watching Yankees game, and like one time I was just like thinking to myself in the pregame, like I was looking at these guys in front of the camera, and I was just thinking to myself, wow, their job is to go all around the country for several months covering the Yankees and watching all these baseball games and talking about them. That's the greatest job in the world. That's what I want to do. And ever since then, I've wanted to be a sportscaster. I went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting over the summer, and I graduated about a month ago. Honestly, like I hope to be an on-air talent someday. Right now I'm pretty much just looking for any internships or other work opportunities, anything to get my foot in the door to the broadcast industry. And I really hope to go all the way with it, because this is what I have wanted to do with my life for several years now.
Assault Battery 777 asks, let's say you were talent scouting for the WWE and had a job to sign 4 wrestlers that would end up in a stable kit together with one current WWE roster member. From your creative mindset on how wrestlers mesh together with each other, which 4 would you sign and which person from the current roster would they align with?
So I'm signing 4 wrestlers, and they're coming in aligned with a current WWE wrestler.
Yes.
I would say there's one on my mind right now, but I kind of don't want to say because it's like the same thing that everyone else is really talking about with like, because WWE is pretty much like already signed like the Kings of Wrestling, and like everyone's like saying like, ooh, they should come in with like Colt Cabana and CM Punk, and that's kind of like the one that I'm like thinking of right now. But maybe one I'd like to see would be I'd love to see Ronin. I'd love to see Ronin come in with Gargano, Taylor, and Swan come in with like I'm trying to think like what WWE wrestler would most like mesh with them.
Kofi? Evan?
Yeah. I'm trying to think someone like, honestly, maybe even like pair him with like either Kofi if you're bringing him in as faces. If you're bringing him in as heels, Dolph Ziggler.
All right. Now we go to Byzantine Empire. If Hogan and Bischoff were to be phased out TNA completely, is there any chance the promotion could recapture your viewership?
Honestly, with Russo still there, you're still going to have the problems. I think that all three of them need to leave. But then again, the thing for me is, like, before Hogan and Bischoff came to TNA, like, they sucked, but they still had, like, glimpses on occasion. Like, I would still on occasion see, like, an X Division match that I could, like, look at and say, that's different from WWE. Like, they still had a few great matches in 2009. But it's like, once Hogan and Bischoff got there, it was a total, like, second-rate WWE. And that's when I just really, like, lost all hope. Because it's like, it's like, not only do you guys suck, but you're a second-rate version of another promotion, the same promotion that I'm watching you to try to get away from. So, I think if Hogan Bischoff leave, it's a start. We got to get rid of Russo. And that company just needs a complete overhaul at this point.
What were your thoughts on the debut episode of ROH?
I thought it was a good way to introduce ROH to people who have never seen the product before. I think that for diehard fans or fans who have been following Ring of Honor for a while, it might not come off as that impressive, but I think it was a good show to introduce them to the new audience that they're trying to reach.
How would TNA have to book Bound for Glory for you to consider it a success?
It's just hard to say because, like, everything I'd come up with would be totally different from what they're doing right now. I would just say do matches that have not been done before, matches that look on paper like they're going to deliver, and just produce a main event that feels like it belongs at WrestleMania.
All right. We still have more questions left, but right now I want to do a lightning round before we close the freaking Yaya Idiot's question. There's a lot of short questions by Mohawk13 and ROH Awesome Jesse. So you're going to have 5 seconds to answer these questions.
Okay.
And I'm never going to ask them again. So you have 5 seconds to answer these questions, okay?
All right.
You ready to begin the lightning round?
Okay.
Okay, let me just write lightning round in my notes. And 53 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Who is one professional wrestler you would like to meet? 3,
yeah.
2, 1.
Kurt Angle.
Okay. Which death was harder on you, Eddie Guerrero or Chris Benoit?
Eddie.
Who do you think is a better worker, Shawn Michaels or Bryan Danielson?
Shawn
5.
Michaels.
Who is the best worker from a North American indie that is not employed with ROH?
Johnny Gargano.
This guy wrote in his comments, Akira Tozawa or Johnny Gargano.
Oh, wow. I should have said Tozawa. Wow.
Okay.
But he doesn't count as American, does he?
I don't know. He is not working. I mean, he's not working there really.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah. In each major sport you follow, who are your favorite athletes currently and of all time? Basically, football, basketball, baseball, go.
Okay. Derek Jeter, both present and all-time for the Yankees. Justin Tuck, present for the Giants, all-time. Michael Strahan. Hockey, current, Zach Parise, all-time, Brodeur. Basketball, current, I don't know, freaking Amare, I guess. All-time, I don't know enough. College football, all-time would be Colt McCoy.
All right. When are you leaving for Dr. Phil?
Oh, not doing that anymore. It's out in California. I have no way of getting out there.
Who is more annoying, Spinnernet, Wrestling Jesus, or I Am the Havoc?
Havoc. Total troll.
Why do you dislike LeBron James?
Because he's a freaking sellout, man. I mean...
There you go. That is the conclusion of this lightning round. Congratulations. All right. Now we go to frickin' Yaya 88's last 3 questions to close off the questions. Thoughts on the Yankees purposely tanking the game against the Rays the other night?
There were several moments during that game, like, that I stated outright on Twitter. I was like, that's it. This game's a work. Like, it really did look like they were losing on purpose. I think they just realized, like, you know what? Everything's clinched. This game means nothing for us. You know what? It would be really cool if we could keep the Red Sox out of the playoffs. So, I know that, like, Russell Martin has stated in interviews how much he despises the Red Sox. And, it just makes you think, like, he's not the only one who feels that way. So, I don't blame him for doing that. I mean, hey, the Red Sox put themselves in this position. They set themselves up for that to happen, and I have no sympathy for them whatsoever.
Quick answer on how you would have KOW make their WWE debut either as a tag or singles competitors.
I would say I don't really want them to debut as a tag team because the WWE's tag team is so like tiny right now. I would like to see them debut as singles guys. I would say you could have like it would be really awesome if you could have Chris Hero debut in a feud against CM Punk, just because that would be such a throwback to their their feud from IWA. Claudio, I would say bring him in as I'm not really sure how to bring him in because I would not want to bring Claudio in as your typical big man because he's so much more than that. I would say Claudio should be a face coming in though. Maybe he could be a guy to like stop Mark Henry.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
All right, I love this question, and it's such a great question to close this off. Ready for this? I don't want to come off as an asshole, but don't you feel bad for the indie wrestlers who work their ass off for little play, only to have people illegally download the shows they appear on?
Who could this possibly be directed at?
Come on, Pirate. What's your answer?
Yeah, I feel bad, but there's enough people besides me who are buying these shows, so.
And with that mindset, indie wrestling will never get over. All right.
No, seriously, the amount of shows I want to see, I don't have enough money to buy all of them.
All right. What do you do for your job outside of YouTube?
Right now, I work at Lids. I'm a sales associate, but I'm getting like crappy hours there, so I'm looking to leave. I have interviews coming up with TGI Fridays and a Jewelers.
If there is a TGI Fridays near you in the Connecticut-based area, make sure to launch insults towards Trademark629.
What?
People need to insult you when they see you working at Fridays.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
All right.
I'm just busting tables.
Is there anything you want to plug?
Anything I want to plug? Check out CTWE, Connecticut Wrestling Entertainment. It's actually a promotion that I ring announce for. I plugged it on YouTube once or twice. We actually had Low Key come in for our last show, which took place last Saturday night. And he had a great match. It's actually on YouTube. Look up Low Key versus Frankie Aarion. It is honestly like no bias at all. A great match in my opinion. And definitely it's a promotion more I think intended for people in the area because their DVDs don't get a lot of circulation and they're really small scale because they're only like 2 years old, I think. 2 or 3 years old. But definitely the link will be down in the description box to check them out. And yeah.
And before we go, we absolutely must talk about, because I provide scoops on these shows, you need to talk about your conversation with Low Key and Ring of Honor.
Yes, I do. I actually, for those of you that don't know, after the CTWE show that took place last Saturday night, I hung out with Low Key. Me, him, and a bunch of other people went back to my friend's house around 11 or 12 that night, and we went to watch the UFC pay-per-view, and we basically stayed up all night because Low Key had to catch, he had to leave at like 6 in the morning to catch his flight, and once it got to be like 3 or 4 a.m., we just kind of figured there was no point in going to bed, so just stayed up, hung out. He really enlightened me a lot about professional wrestling. He has a totally different perspective on pro wrestling than anyone I've ever talked to.
And what do you say about Ring of Honor?
Ring of Honor, he hates to disappoint any Ring of Honor fans out there, but Low Key does not seem to have any desire to go back to Ring of Honor. His statement was, when I asked him, do you have any desire to go back to Ring of Honor? He said, no. I said, why not? He's like, it's a bunch of boys, there's not men. So I kind of was thinking like, well, that's partly due to the fact that they've lost so many guys. So like a lot of their more experienced talent got signed away. But at the same time, I can kind of see where he's coming from. Loki is kind of like he has a combination of like an old school and a new school mentality. He values a lot of the old school wrestling like traditions and like values and beliefs and stuff like that, but he also has a desire to like carry on stuff from his generation. Like he highly values the athleticism aspect of pro wrestling. He believes that a wrestler should be an all-around athlete because he's mentioned like so many guys that he's met who wrestling is not their only physical activity. They'll play other sports such as like football and stuff like that, and that you have to put in. He really believes that you should put in the effort and prove that you deserve to be in the industry. I remember he was talking about how some people might remember this. If anyone ever watched the show on MTV Made, they did an episode one time where there was this kid who wanted to become a pro wrestler, and in the interview segments on the show, he mentioned that he wanted to be a wrestler to impress his older brother, and he would give these other reasons about how he wanted to like prove that he still like had some like toughness in him because he was gay, and thus like people thought he was like wimpy or like a fruit or whatever. And Loki was talking about it that night, and he was just like he gave these reasons, but he never once said like I want to do this because I have a passion for pro wrestling and I want to train and work hard to make myself the best. And Loki just that really just kind of ticked him off because he knows like so many guys who have busted their ass for so long and never reached the heights of certain individuals. So he absolutely believes in earning your spot.
All right. And Jared, thank you very much for being a guest on the show. We had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed your time. And is there anything else you want to say before we go?
Nah, not really.
All right. Please follow Trademark on Twitter that I put down there in the plugs. And please check out CTWE. I'm going to put a link to their website, and I'm going to put a YouTube link to that match.
Hopefully one of their shows will show up in the future, all sides of the wrestling world.
Well, we will. I promise I will. When I do my next random indies, I will probably include them.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that one.
Well, it's random indies. I mean, I've reviewed AIW, ISW. I'm pretty sure CTWE. Which, by the way, for those who do not know, I don't know why he didn't mention this. Oh, that's right, because he's a pirate and he doesn't buy DVDs. But CTWE was actually mentioned on the Wrestling Road Diaries documentary.
And actually, if you see that DVD, the person that Bryan Danielson wrestled in that promotion, in that segment of the DVD, Chris Battle, he's actually a very good friend of mine. So
there you go. And with that, Trademark, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And with that, we are out. Goodbye.